Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Five Tier Football for another, table prediction video, really. But this time it's the Premier League. Returns this weekend. Perfect time for it. And we'll try and make this one a bit shorter so we can improve the viewer retention and whatnot. Thanks for tuning in if you have. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you're new. It's much appreciated. We want to keep pumping out as much content as possible, but particularly when the season starts, that's when the grind will really get going for content and stuff. But today we're joined by, one of the members of the team that wasn't here before as he was on holiday, and that's Adam, the one, the only goal hanger. How are you, mate?
All right, mate. How are you?
Good. Yeah, not too bad. You're repping the Dundee shirt.
I am. For once.
And then, of course, we're joined by Brandon as always.
Mate, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
I'm actually repping the new Derby team.
That shirt's growing on me. To be fair,
it's growing on me.
It's okay. It's okay. Myself, I'm repping the 2007-2008 Birmingham City shirt. We love that penguin kit. But yeah, anyway, we'll get straight into it. You guys don't actually know what the combined table is because I've had to combine all our predictions and just slap it into a table. So this should be quite a surprise to you guys, but we'll go straight into it. I think the bottom of the table, it's either going to be one of few in any predictions video, and we're starting off with Brentford. In my table personally, I think I had Brentford literally slap bang bottom of the table. I've not backed them to do anything special whatsoever this year at all. And then Brandon, you had them in 18th. Any particular reason why you had them in 18th?
Well, I wasn't expecting you to have them in 20th. Bloody hell.
Yeah, I was a bit savage.
18th, you know what it is? I feel like I've done them quite harshly, to be honest, because I feel like out of the three that have gone up, they're actually most likely to stay up. But literally just because of their goals. But I just think the defence is going to let them down. Simple as that. I just think they've not invested enough in the defence.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think obviously, Ivan Toney's the main man. If you eliminate him, you eliminate Brentford. Simple as that, really. Adam, what are your thoughts on Brentford this season?
I agree with Brandon with them not investing in defence. Well, I've got 19th, so only one above the bottom. And I think the team mentality, like you said, if Ivan Toney's taken out of the game, then they ain't going to score goals. I've got to agree with that. I think the team mentality, I think they maybe even call it the arrogance. I think it's going to catch up with them this season. And at the end of the day, they went up through the playoffs, and going up through the playoffs doesn't mean you're one of the strongest teams in the league. That was last season. And I thought Brentford got caught out a few times when they shouldn't have last season. So there we go. I'm putting them 19th. I don't think I've got enough in them to stay up.
I think that's a fair prediction. I'm not a massive fan of Thomas Frank. I think he's a good manager, but I think he's very arrogant. And I hope that arrogance drags them back to the Championship. Moving on, 19th place, Sean Dyche's Burnley. Brandon, you had them in 17th. I had them in 19th. That's where they're still stuck because of other teams. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Burnley this season, Brandon?
It's a tough one to call because we've been saying it for years that they're just, where the lack of investment, and it's just they're just edging closer to that bottom three every single year. I've tipped them to stay up but I can understand why he's putting them in the bottom three because it is going to catch up with them eventually. So I don't know. It's a hard one to judge, but I'm tipping them just to stay up. But I can understand why you haven't.
Yep, that's fair. I'm just going to pause the recording a second. So, Adam, where have you got Burnley this season?
I put Burnley in 18th, so in the middle of where you two put them. I agree with Burnley keep edging close to the relegation zone. Lack of investment, but this year, I just see not enough quality in their signings, and I think the team that they've got is aging. And at the end of the day, the tactics have got more found out each season as they've gone, and as you do when you stay with the same tactics. And I do think they might not have enough in them this season. And if they do manage to stay up and prove me wrong, then I think maybe the season after this one's going to be a tough one for them.
Yeah, I think Burnley always defy the odds really, and manage to stay up. They probably the past couple of seasons really, really bad starts, and they look like they're destined for relegation every time. And then second half of the season, they'll go and beat every top six side just for a laugh. So that's just classic Burnley. Wouldn't surprise me if they find a way to stay up, but I just don't think. I feel like the squad is aging, and I don't think they've recruited the right way. Obviously, they've made a promising signing in Collins, but that's a lot of weight on a young lad's shoulder to keep a club in the Premier League. But we'll see. Happy to be proven wrong as always. In 18th place in our table, we've got Watford. I had Watford in 15th, so I had them to stay up by a fair bit. Brandon, you had them in 19th, so you weren't back in Watford at all. Why is that?
I don't know. No, I do know. Just putting the table together, I think they're stronger than Norwich, but I think there's teams better than them that are going to be, which we'll obviously get onto. But I think there's teams, especially down there, which have not capitalised on their potential, if you know what I mean. Like, there's a team down there that statistically was one of the better teams in the division last season, but didn't perform it. So, and I think these teams will start to get the cogs turning this year. And I just, to be fair, my entire bottom three is the promoted teams. So not often that actually happens, I don't think. But yeah, there's nothing on Watford. I think they're stronger than Norwich, but I think they're still a bit short on quality compared to the other teams down there.
Yeah, I think that's fair assessment. Adam, where have you got Watford?
I've got Watford bottom. I don't think they've got enough quality in them. I think the signings that they've made are Premiership quality. And I think a few of the players are aging. I just think they're going to get caught out. I just don't think they'll have enough in them. And I think they'll get caught out. And I think the style of play that they have won't work in the Premier League, the players that they have.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Fair point. I think the reason why I backed Watford is because I think overall they have a good team morale. They've held on to some decent players. Obviously Will Hughes was linked away, and it's good if they can keep hold of him until the end of the window. They've really got some players that seem to just be coming through all of a sudden. Their development has just rapidly accelerated, and Nathaniel Chalobah is one of those players. But I really like their manager. He just seems like a really likable guy. The whole team seems to like him. And I just think it's not the oldest squad. There are some promising young talents in there that could grow into Premier League players. So we'll have to see, but it wouldn't surprise me if they went down, to be honest. Next team we have is Brentford in 8. Oh, no, actually, we've already covered Brent. I was reading your table, Brandon. Next team we have in 17th is Norwich. So Norwich just scraping safety. And I think that's down to me, really, on my prediction, because I had them in 13th. So I've actually backed Norwich to do really well this season when a lot of people have got them finishing slap bang at the bottom, including you, Brandon. So why have you got Norwich bottom of your table?
I just think, look, I like how the club's ran in terms of they know that they don't want to spend loads of money and come back down because it can financially hurt teams. We've seen that with like Aston Villa, for example, with the pickle they got themselves in a few years ago with the old owners. But so I like the way they go about that. But like, there's such an over reliance on Pookie and Cantwell now with Wendy leaving, and the money isn't reinvested well enough. And I understand that's the way they are. Like, that's not a criticism of them because they don't want to invest. It's not like they're just not doing it. But yeah, I just think they're just going to go straight back down. I don't think they've got enough. I think it'll be similar to what happened the last time they're in the Prem. I think they'll try and play their football, and I think they'll get caught out.
I think that's a fair assessment. Personally, I think they're coming in more prepared this time.
They're definitely more prepared, but I still think they're, you know what I mean? I still think
relegation fodder.
Fodder.
Yeah. No, I do think they're more prepared, and I like Farke as a manager, and I hope he can keep Norwich in the Prem this season because I think their fans deserve at least one season where they get to stay up rather than being the classic yo-yo. But no, I think the key, probably the marquee signing is Billy Gilmore. And I think he could be really influential in the middle of the park for Norwich. And I think they might surprise a few, and I hope they do, but we'll see. Adam, where have you got Norwich?
Let me quickly say the league table. I've not predicted 11 to 17. Now I'm forgetting whose clubs where.
Oh dear. We'll move on anyway. We'll just. Do you think they'll stay up?
Yeah, I do think Norwich stay up. I think Billy Gilmore's a quality addition. It's a great move for him to get first in football, and he could become a top Premier League midfielder. And this is a great chance for him to kick on. I do think Norwich stay up because of the quality that they've got. Even if they do, I do want them to stay up. So I can't be bothered for them to be back in the Championship again.
I don't want to go to Carrow Road.
No, it's too far. So I do hope they stay up. Yeah, I do think they've got enough in them to stay up anyway this season.
Bang on, mate. Love that. Right, moving on. 16th place, Newcastle. I think it could be an interesting one. I think a lot of people always fancy Newcastle to go down pretty much every year, because nobody likes Steve Bruce's brand of football. And yes, it is very ugly. But last season and the season before, it got results, and it does seem to still do that. Although they probably beat teams they shouldn't, and they lose to teams who they shouldn't lose to. Very Newcastle thing to do. But I think they'll stay up. Personally, I had them in 17th, which is not far off. So, just one place below where we've got them in the combined table. And then obviously, Brandon, you had them in 14th, which I thought was surprisingly high compared to some other predictions I've seen. But I completely understand it. There's enough quality in that squad, especially if they get Willock back. So we'll have to see. Why have you put them in 14th?
I think people are pretty harsh on Bruce, to be honest. I think he's just doing as good of a job that he can. He's keeping the club stable while they go through a period of, are they going to sell the club? Are they going to get investment? Are they going to take that next step up? And I think he's just there for the ride at the minute. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think people are harsh on him. I think with that squad of players, look, the football's not pretty, but it gets you results. So I think people misinterpret that and think they're just really bad, but they're not. But they've got some good players, and I think Willock coming back will definitely add goals in there, and they'll be solid at the back. There'll be the odd game where they let in a few clangers, because that always seems to happen under Newcastle. But yeah, I think they'll be completely fine, and I think I had them 13th, didn't I? So yeah, a pretty solid finish.
Yep, solid finish, especially if they achieve what you've put them up to achieve. Adam, what are your thoughts on Newcastle this season?
Well, if I had to predict them, I'd put them 17th personally. I think they'll just avoid the drop a bit. I agree with everything you've got saying in terms of Steve Bruce's football. Signing of Joe Willock is a huge one for them. But will he have as good of a season as what he did on loan? That's going to have to wait and see. A 6-year contract is a big one, because a couple of those 6 years could be spent in the Championship, and who knows what his wages are. But I do think Newcastle are going to keep declining until they get relegated again. I don't think they'll get relegated this year, but I think we could see maybe next season or season after.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's fair. Obviously, we got them in the same place, so we're on the same wavelength when it comes to Newcastle. Right, on to the next team. In 15th place, we have Brighton and Hove Albion, Graham Potter's side. Personally, in my table, I have Brighton in 14th, so not far off where they are. And then Brandon, you had them in 15th, which is where they are positioned in the combined table. What are your thoughts on Brighton this season?
I look forward to seeing how they're going to progress from last season, because like I mentioned earlier in the video, their XG and their expected clean sheets and stuff was like in the top 6, like it was mental. But it was just, I don't know, defensive mistakes and just not being clinical enough. That is just letting them down. So I'm excited to see if they can work on that this season. I know they've brought in this lad from Salzburg, I think, or Leipzig or something. That's meant to be a nice little midfielder, but not too sure how they're going to fare. But I'm not backing them to go like beat massively what they did last season, but I don't think they'll go down. I think they're too good for that.
Yeah, I respect that. I think with Brighton, for me personally, if they can continue what they were doing last season, then they'll have a great season. I'm sure of it. But I wouldn't rule them out of the bottom three at all. I think they could easily be sucked into that. But we'll have to wait and see. Adam, what are your thoughts on Brighton this season?
I think they'll stay up. I think that XG and clean sheets and goal scored. I think they've got too many errors in them to finish anywhere near the European spots in what their XG predict, and that's going to be a problem for me. So I'll put them pretty much slap bang mid-table. I'm going to put them around 14th, I would say 15th, to put them into a place, but that's just my opinion on Brighton. I think the errors that they've got, and I just think they need more quality in that side to get high up into the top 10.
That's great. Looks like we're all on the same page with Brighton. In 14th place, we have Southampton. Bit of an interesting one. Recently signed Adam Armstrong. I think this, like I said, for Brighton, really, I think Southampton, if they can have a good start under Hasenhüttl, I think he's a good coach. And they can continue to develop Jay Adams as well. He was really coming to the forefront last season. But yeah, if they can keep those players fit and in form, then they could be a good side next season. However, I wouldn't rule them out of the bottom three at all. What are your thoughts on Southampton this season, Adam?
I think they're losing. Where's his name? Ings. I thought I was going to have him there. Losing Danny Ings is a huge loss. Adam Armstrong's a good replacement. A similar style of play to Danny Ings, which is going to really help them. But I just think they're going to struggle. I'm seeing offers being offered to, I think it was Vestergaard as well, one that they accepted recently, whether that's going to happen or anything like that. But I just think they're going to lose too many key players. And Southampton, in my opinion, are on the decline from what I'm seeing. The best players are leaving. Offers are getting thrown in for their other players. And it just seems to me like Southampton are going to keep getting lower and lower down. So I personally put Southampton 16th in my table. That's how low down I think they're going to go. I think the loss of Danny Ings is huge for them, so they're going to have a big transitional season. Still need Adam Armstrong to give him 6 months before he can properly become a solid player in that first team for them. So, yeah, that's what I'm going with Southampton. I think they'll stay up, but I think it's a transitional season for them.
Completely agree. Definitely a transition, but they are losing some big players. Ward-Prowse being linked away. Ings already gone. Vestergaard looks like he's on his way. Could be a tough season for Southampton. I think I've been a bit kind to the Saints. But speaking of kind to the Saints, Brandon, why have you got Southampton in 11th place?
It is very kind. Don't pull that face. Come on, we know that the manager's underrated. Let's put it that way. Some bad results. Yeah, you can reference the 9-1, but and the 9-0 actually. But I think they're just I think it's an underrated manager. Look, the squad is getting weaker. I can accept that, but it's also getting better with the likes of Armstrong coming in. I have been kind. Why are you smiling at me like that, man?
Getting stronger.
They're not moving a lot, but they've still got money to reinvest. Vestergaard, they need to keep Vestergaard, obviously, to have a good season. But
it's your opinion, mate. You can have your opinion.
I've been kind. I'll hold my hands off. I've been kind, but I don't know. I've just got a feeling.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Sometimes everyone gets that sort of a feeling about a team a bit out of random, I suppose. But it's definitely a bold prediction. But you never know. Southampton could do some late business.
It's bold. It's bold. It's not that bold, though.
It's not mad. But I think Adam Armstrong. You never know. He might end up being an absolute baller in the Prem. We don't know yet. But we'll see. We'll see. Moving on into 13th place, we have Crystal Palace. A lot of people are tipping them to go down, and I think it's very, very harsh to rule them out this early. I think they have a really creative squad. Obviously, Eze's out injured at the moment, but when he comes back, he'll be a huge part of this squad. They've done some good business, bringing in Elise as well. And I just think overall, it's an exciting project there. It could go very wrong. They could easily be in that relegation dogfight. But I'm just excited to see what Crystal Palace can bring this season, especially with the signing of Gahey as well in the defence. But no, I back Vieira. I think he was, as a player, he was always very, very smart, good football brain. And I think if he can channel that into management, then it'd be really exciting to watch Palace this season. So yeah, I backed them to finish 10th. So I was probably quite bold and quite kind with Palace, in a sense. Whereas Brandon, you had Palace in 16th. Why is that?
I mean, a little bit harsh, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, the quality, there's areas of quality in the squad, but I think with Vieira coming in, there's a few new players coming in as well. I think it might take him a while to get into the stride, maybe a season. I don't think they'll go down. I think they've got enough in them to not go down, especially when players like Eze come back. But yeah, I think they still need more in that squad if they want to push any higher than kind of like a lower mid-table sort of area. So
yeah, I think that's fair. Adam, what are your thoughts on Palace this season?
I think they've got a decent team, a decent squad. So there's no reason why they can't finish clear the relegation zone. Personally, I put them in 15th because I didn't believe in them that much to do anything special under Vieira early on. It will be interesting to see how he works with that team and see the style of play that he's going to implement upon them. So 15th place finish for me would be solid for Palace, something to build on. Maybe have a cup run like they sometimes do. And I'm just interested to see how Vieira is going to line up with Palace.
Yeah, definitely. They're probably one of the teams, if not the team, I'm most excited to watch this season and see what they can do. But it wouldn't surprise me if they flopped. Moving into 12th, new manager. It's going to be quite the change for Wolves, and I think this will be a very transitional system. But yeah, we've got Wolves in 12th. It could be a tough season. You never know. They could get dragged into it because Nuno's been there for so long, and we've seen what happens. When you pull a manager that's been at a club for quite a while, what happens when you pull them away? It's quite hard to go in there and rejuvenate that squad and get them back to where they should be. Because Wolves have never really kicked on since their first season. They've had good seasons, but not. I wouldn't say they'd improved, and I don't think they're going to improve this season. I think it's going to be another tough one, but we'll see. Brandon, what are your thoughts on Wolves this season? Obviously, you've got them in 13th.
I've got them in 13th. I've actually put here might be a bit of a kind placement because the manager is. I think it's all going to come down to the manager. I don't think he's going to change much. I don't think he's been playing a back three in pre-season, similar kind of style, soaking up a bit of pressure and hitting teams on the break. I think Jimenez coming back is going to be massive, but there's no guarantee that he's going to come back and start firing the goals like he did before after such a harsh injury. So Wolves is probably the hardest one to predict for me, I think, this year, because you just could go wrong so easily, or they could just have a pretty simple mid-table finish. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt because of the talent that they've got in the squad. But yeah, could quite easily get dragged into that bottom third. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they did.
100% wouldn't surprise me if Wolves got relegated this season. Adam, what are your thoughts on Wolves?
I've put Wolves 12th, in and around the position that you put them. I do think they're going to start to go on a decline. I agree with Brandon. I don't think the new manager's going to change much. But I think Wolves as a team, I agree with the first point, Tom, that they haven't really kicked on. I think players like Ruben Neves have been quality, but he's not kicked on to the quality of being in a top six side, in my opinion, which I thought he might have done when he moved up to the Premier League. I thought he might have turned into a real quality player. He is quality, but I don't see him stepping up into a top six side. And I think that's the problem with Wolves. They've got too many mid-table quality players. I look at Raul Jimenez. He's had that huge injury, but before that, he probably could have made it into a top six side, maybe just about. And that's what I look at Wolves. I see too many quality mid-table players, not enough top six quality players that could help push them into Europe again.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to take a lot to kind of, I suppose, kick on from what Nuno did at Wolves. It's a tough job to take, but we'll see. You never know. And anything can happen in football, as we all know. Moving on to 11th place. Obviously, it is a bit of a drop from, it would be a drop from where they finished last season and obviously overachieved so much. But I hope they finish higher. I love seeing the way the Hammers are on the rise. But we've got West Ham in 11th place, which I don't think is necessarily a bad prediction, but they could definitely finish higher. I think a lot of that depends on Declan Rice and whether he stays or whether he goes. But yeah, no, there's definitely potential for West Ham to break into that sort of top 7 region. But no, in our combined table, we got them 11th. Personally, I had them in 11th in my own table actually, so it sort of goes well. Whereas Brandon, you're not far off. You had them in 12th. Why is that?
Yeah, I just think especially with them competing in Europe this year, or I don't know if they have to go through another qualifying stage yet. There's just their starting 11 is brilliant, right? You can't deny that. And it still overachieved last season, but it is still brilliant. But deals falling through like Lingard, I think they had a deal in for Zuma as well. And the fact that they've got such a lack of squad depth, I think only 17 first team players, to say that the team's actually competing in Europe as well, I think it's too much to ask for them to recapture last season's form. So a bit of a drop off, but I think just a bit of investment here and there, which look, West Ham owners clearly aren't happy with the owners because of that exact reason. So I don't think that's actually going to change. But I feel bad for the fans, but yeah, I don't think they're going to recapture last season. It was a massive overachievement by Moyes, and credit to him, but I don't think he's going to do it again.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's fair. Obviously, West Ham were tipped for relegation last season and then defied the odds. We'll see what they do this coming season and whether they can continue to defy those odds. Adam, what are your thoughts on West Ham?
I've got West Ham in 11th. I agree in the terms of that. Competing in Europe means they're going to have to rest players here and there and prioritise certain matches over others, which I think that's why they won't have as good of a season as what they had last season. And we usually see one team have a quality season, don't we? That's usually a mid-table side and then drop off the season after. So I see that happening with West Ham, but I think they might have a decent run in Europe, and hope they do, to be fair. It'd be quite interesting, Mike.
Definitely. It's always good to see one of the English top 6, outside the English top 6 teams on a European tour. I think they'll have support from a lot of neutrals. Moving on into, I'd say, probably quite a big prediction. I don't think many people are fancying them this season, but it is a big call, and that's Spurs in 10th place. Tottenham Hotspur in 10th. Bit of a crazy one. Obviously, they've just appointed Nuno. Definitely a transitional season. I think we can all agree on that. And you never know, he could get off to a flyer. He could surprise a lot of people, but I don't think they've recruited anywhere near enough as they need to, because for me, that squad isn't good enough to kick on, especially if they lose Kane. But if they did sign that Inter Milan striker, Martinez, then he'd be a decent replacement. Would he live up to Kane, though? I don't think he will, but we'll have to see whether any of that comes off. But yeah, so I mean, in mine, I actually had Spurs lower than that. I think I really don't fancy them this season. I had Spurs in 12th in my predictions. Sorry, Spurs fans. Adam, what are your thoughts on Spurs this season?
I'll base it off as Harry Kane staying at the club right now. I'll base mine off that. I predicted them around 9th, 10th position, because I agree with you. They've not got a squad at the minute that's good enough for Europe in mind. Well, it could qualify for Europe. It'd be better than the mid-table sides, but in terms of competing with the top 6, it's not good enough. It's in a weird in between. If Harry Kane stays, then I do think they might come close to getting Europe. If Harry Kane leaves, then they're in a really tough position, because I don't see enough in that Spurs team for them to score enough goals like they would like to without Harry Kane up front. And Harry Kane's irreplaceable. He's an irreplaceable player.
Yeah, definitely. Completely agree. Obviously, they are in Europe this year, but they're in the brand new UEFA Conference League. Very exciting for Spurs fans. I'm sure they can't wait to go to lots of very well-known European clubs. Moving on to you, Brandon, you've got them in 8th place. Why is that?
Yeah, I actually quite like Nuno as a coach. I like what he did at Wolves, but he had backing at Wolves, even in the Championship. And like you mentioned before, he's not had backing this summer, which is somewhat understandable given, the situation they had with the manager they were in for that many. And obviously a lot failed the interview process, you can say. But yeah, I think the Conference League is actually going to be a negative, to be honest. Flying to all these long trips around to the far reaches of Europe, I don't think it's going to help the squad at all. Depth is okay, but they need signings, and if they do lose Kane, then that's not a chance for me. I don't know much about that Lautaro Martinez, to be honest. So I don't know how I can really judge him if they were to bring him in. I was thinking someone more like an Immobile or something. I don't know. I feel like he's a bit more similar to Kane. Maybe not. I don't know. But I don't really know Lautaro Martinez. So I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns and not a lot of time until the start of the season. Only 2 days, or a day. So I don't know. I've put them in 8th, maybe a bit generous, but I like Nuno as a coach. So transitional season, but give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, definitely. I think the main thing is you've got to stick with Nuno this season because it's not going to be a short process. That's for sure. Exactly. Can't afford to, really. Moving into 9th place, not one I'm particularly happy about, but I think we can all agree that they should have a good season this season on paper, and I'd be surprised if they didn't. But yeah, that's Aston Villa, obviously. They've made some great signings. Danny Ings signed him out of nowhere. No one saw that coming. Buendia, huge signing. Leon Bailey, a massive signing. It was only a few years ago he was linked with Manchester United. So, yeah, really good business, but obviously big hole to fill in that Aston Villa team. And if you haven't heard already, I'd be surprised. You must have been living under a rock. But Jack Grealish has moved to Manchester City, and it's definitely caused meltdown over in Witten. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a tough gap to fill. But overall, that Villa squad should do well this season. And it probably would have done even better if they still had Grealish. But unfortunately, they don't. So, yeah, it's whether they can kick on and fill that hole and show that they're not a one-man team. But I think they might struggle to do that. But on paper, they probably shouldn't. Adam, what are your thoughts on Villa this season?
I think obviously losing Grealish is huge, but he only scored 6 goals last season. I think they've got the replacements that can easily hit more than 6 goals individually there. And I don't rate Villa's defence, if I'm being honest with you. I think it's weak. But if they rely on their attack a lot, then I don't see why they can't finish around the European spots for sure if they kick on properly. But just have to wait and see to how they work without Jack Grealish. It'd be really disappointing to see them collapse without Jack Grealish because a one-man team never works in the long run. So it'd be disappointing if they didn't work without Grealish, but just have to wait and see. So I don't see why they can't finish around the European spots this season.
Yeah, definitely. Completely agree. I don't think their squad depth is amazing as well. If there are a few injuries away from mid-table mediocrity, and it wouldn't surprise me if they ended up down there because they struggled. And I hope they do, but there we are. Brandon, you've got them in 9th. Why is that?
Yeah, pretty much still the same as you, mate. I think the signings are really clever, especially the way they went about it before they actually sold Grealish, so that it didn't inflate player prices, because that's kind of what we saw with Leicester and Maguire. They waited until they sold Maguire to go in for Tarkowski, and then Burnley, knowing that they had the Maguire money, were asking for pretty much double. So that's what Aston Villa have been clever about, and they've avoided that. So fair play to them. But yeah, I agree with Adam. The defence is an injury away from mid-table. But I think also probably a signing or two in midfield, because they've got the attacking flair and talent. I think they just need to control games now. And I think I can't see McGinn, like controlling a game as much. Douglas Luiz, he breaks up play while he anchors well, but I don't think these players control games. So it'll be an interesting one. Maybe Samson can turn out to be that player, but he's still a bit unknown yet. So I'm backing him for 9th, and they could easily push into Europe with it if they put a good run together. But I think just a bit short for me, and maybe next summer we'll see them push on even more.
100%, completely agree. Moving on to 8th place, Everton, the Toffees. Controversial over there, really, at the moment. 50% of the fan base happy with the appointment of Benitez, 50% not, which is surprising to hear from the friendly derby. So I'm surprised. I'm surprised, to be honest. I didn't think it would be that bad a reaction, but clearly they don't feel greatly about Benitez. But if you had to say who probably is a bit more of who cares about the rivalry more, you probably say Everton care more about the rivalry than Liverpool do, because Liverpool probably see Man United as more as their main rival. So I respect both opinions on Benitez from the fan base. But I think they need to back him, really, because his pedigree is there for all to see. However, their transfer business as of yet has not been great. I think it's been very weird with the signing of Townsend and Gray. Very different to their business last season, that's for sure. But also hearing that James Rodriguez isn't a part of the plans as well is surprising, since he actually had quite an impressive season last season despite injury. But that's part and parcel with Rodriguez. Really, injury comes quite naturally to him. So it's definitely going to be a transitional season, but I just can't see where Everton are going to go. I don't know whether it's up or down, to be honest. What are your thoughts on it, Adam?
I've got to agree with you. I don't know. I don't think they're going to go down, but signs of Andre Gray and Townsend are almost 4 years too late for Everton, if I'm being honest. So I'm not overly sure what they're going for. So I'm really disappointed James Rodriguez isn't going to be in the plan. I really enjoyed watching him play for Everton. I thought he pretty much led that team through certain games, especially that win over Liverpool last season. So it's really disappointing that he's not going to be involved, but I just don't see that Everton squad right now having enough in them to get into the European spot. So I'd say just outside that in 8th or 9th spot from me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. What about you, Brandon? I think in your table you have them 10th.
Yeah, I've got them 10th. They'll fall off a bit from last year because of obvious reasons. Signings have been underwhelming. What you say about James Rodriguez, the manager I actually quite like. Obviously, I understand why the fans aren't behind it, but I feel like you just got to back your club at this point in time. But yeah, I think the manager is pushing them up a bit more, but the squad needs more strength in him. You know what I mean? So yeah, a steady 10th for Everton. I can't see them doing much worse up the Toffees.
Fair play. Moving on to 7th place, we have Arsenal. Where do you start? It just never looks like it's going to end up working with Mikel Arteta at the moment. I hope it can, but I just don't think it will. I think that ship sailed a while ago, and it's going to continue to be quite the embarrassing circus over there. However, I think in my predictions, I had them in 9th, and obviously they've squeezed into 7th in our combined table. The signing of Ben White's good business, but is it what they need? No. I think looking at James Maddison, I don't think it's the right thing to do, or Odegaard either, to be honest. I don't understand Ramsdale either, when they've spoken about Ramsdale being their second keeper when they've already got Leno. It's like, if you're going to sign Ramsdale, you want him to be your first team keeper. And obviously it's rumored that Arteta's got this big budget of 200 million, and I just don't think he's spending it very well at all. I don't even think anyone wants to go to Arsenal, to be honest. It's not an attractive club anymore. It's not what it used to be. And I don't think things are going to improve there for a while, and it wouldn't surprise me if they finish below Spurs in the actual table, in a more mid-table region. But we'll have to wait and see. They do show some decent bits of play here and there, but we'll have to see. Adam, what are your thoughts on Arsenal?
In my opinion, on Arsenal, I don't see them having a direction or a plan going anywhere. I think the players they're signing, they don't complement each other in any way in terms of their style of play, and that's what I see difficult with Arsenal. They're going to continually be in the Europa League places or just outside them, because there's not a plan right now, and at some point they're going to have to come up with one, because the money that they're spending, 24 million on a second choice keeper is not what you do. And a player like Ramsdale, that's going to kill his development if he goes to Arsenal and doesn't get first in games. He does need a Premier League team to keep developing and getting around the England team, but just overall on Arsenal, I don't see them doing much this season. I'd have to put them 8th or 9th, in my opinion.
I think that's a fair assessment. Brandon, what are your thoughts on Arsenal this season? Obviously, you had them in 6th place.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those classic Arsenal 6th places. They're not amazing, but they're not awful. Like, I think they're still better than Spurs. So yeah, I think, to be fair, I don't know. I'm just got a feeling it's one of those classic Arsenal 6th place seasons. Investment isn't going in the right areas, and it's just one of them Arsenal classic seasons.
100%, completely agree. Moving into 6th place now, Adam, I think you'll love this one. In 6th, we have Leeds United. Big call, really. I mean, in my predictions, I had Leeds in 7th, so 1 place below. But Brandon, you had Leeds in 5th in your predictions. So 5th place, obviously a big shout from you. Why have you got Leeds in 5th?
I've put Leeds in 5th because Bielsa ball. Oh, the Bielsa effect. I love this. I love his face. And it's just momentum. They're actually not that bad of a team. Look, they need more investment to push even higher. It's a massive call, I know, but it's a gut feeling. It's another one of my gut feelings. You know, the ones that never actually are right. But
Them ones, yeah.
I've been kind of putting 5th because I've got a feeling, and just to piss him off.
Yeah, I rate it. I do, I've got Leeds in 7th, so not too far off, but obviously in our combined table, they are 6th. And I believe they can achieve that. Bielsa has already shown last season what he can do with this Leeds team. And I think they can definitely kick on, but they need to make signings really, really soon. Because I think that's all that's missing, really, just some key areas that need strengthening, and their squad depth isn't great. They have lost a few players, especially on expiring contracts as well, like Alioski and whatnot. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one for Leeds this season. They should kick on, but it wouldn't surprise me if they faded into mid-table, that's for sure. Adam, what are your thoughts on Leeds United?
I think they could get Europe sooner rather than later, but I don't think they're going to finish 5th. I mean, in my opinion, in football's current climate, I think the style of play that Bielsa implements works in the Championship, might work in the Premier League for a year or two, and then it just becomes outdated. I think it's such a harsh style of play on the players. But if you want to sign a top player, it's a big call from me. Does he want to play that style of play? Does he want to have to run 20 kilometers a game, 10 kilometers a game? That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're a top player, would you rather go to Leeds, run 10, 15 kilometers a game, have your keeper drop 3 balls in your own goal, and then draw 3-3, or go and play for Leicester, Villa, or Everton and do the complete opposite, but it's in the same position? That's my opinion. I agree with you. I think Leeds have to strengthen in the areas of goalkeeping. I was really disappointed with Leeds goalkeeper last season. I thought he cost them a fair few times. I agree with you in terms of squad depth.
I thought Melio was okay.
I thought he was all right.
No, I didn't think he was good enough. A better Leeds goalkeeper, and they could have been in or around Europe last season for their first season back in the Premier League. That was my opinion anyway. I think I enjoy watching Leeds, but if they they're always got an exciting game in them. But if they strengthen in the key areas, and there's no reason why they can't get Europe. I put them 7th or 8th, so I do think they'll be quite close there, drawing them. But
kinder than I expected.
I don't think they're like one place outside the Champions League, Brandon.
I thought he was just going to come through with like 17th.
I love 20. There's always a bit of beef. Gotta love it. Moving into 5th place, Brandon, you weren't too keen on this team from your prediction, but don't know whether that's because you just want to spite your partner being a Leicester fan. But yeah, in our combined table, Leicester are fifth in the table. For me personally, I had Leicester fifth, so that's kind of matched my prediction. Whereas Brandon, you had them in seventh, which did surprise me. But I can understand, they've recruited all right. There's been a bit of recruitment. Don't know too much about their new players, but other than Ryan Bertrand, but it's not too bad. It's just whether they can kick on, really. But I don't think there's any reason why they can't. But do I think they've made enough signings to make the next step from where they finished last season? No, not at all. But the squad is still fantastic. Obviously, recently they've been linked with Lingard. If they could bring in Jesse Lingard, that'd be a huge signing for them. But we'll just have to see. Vardy's aging. The goals are slowly disappearing from him season upon season. The numbers are still good, but I think we will see a bit more of a significant drop in goals from him. But it's good for Leicester that Iheanacho is stepping up to the plate now, finally. But the injury to Fofana is really bad news for Leicester. So, we'll just have to see, really. But if they bring in Vestergaard, then it's not a bad replacement. But it's a very, it's not really a like for like replacement. Fofana's a lot quicker than Vestergaard, so it's a very different defender altogether, which does make you question what sort of playing style Leicester will approach with next season, but we'll have to see. But personally, I back Rodgers to still get a top 5 finish. So, Brandon, what are your thoughts on Leicester this season? Obviously, you got them 7th.
I quite like the business, to be fair. I think Vestergaard would be not a bad replacement for Fofana. He's obviously on the older side, but Fofana's on the younger side, so you can kind of understand that. And yeah, I like the signing of the striker. I don't know too much about him, but I know he's got 27 goals in 21 appearances for Salzburg last season, so it's a pretty good goal ratio. But yeah, for me, the only reason I've dropped them is because of the European football. I think they're better prepared. It's not the Champions League, but I think they're better prepared for Europe than they were last time they did. But I just think it's just, especially with the injuries, because they've not got the best injury record either, that it might just, the extra games might cause them to drop a couple more places. But I'm completely fine if they finish in the top 4 or top 6. I can see that every day of the week. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Adam, what are your thoughts on Leicester this season?
I've got them 5th as well. I think they're a really exciting team to watch. Obviously, the injuries have really hit them, and I just think the teams above them will have more quality than them in the long run and a better squad depth. That's why I put this 5th. I just don't think they'll make top 4 this coming season.
Yep, fair assessment. Moving on, 4th place, Liverpool. Interesting one. I think it really is now or never for Klopp. I think it wouldn't surprise me if this was his last season or the penultimate season before he left Liverpool. I do think his days are numbered. But if, realistically, Liverpool's aim should be the title with the return of Gomez and Van Dijk. But we'll have to see. I don't think they've done enough business, really. Robertson's out injured as well. I think it'll be another tough season for Liverpool. I just can't see them doing as well as they did when they won the league. They've really dropped off last season, and I think that drop won't continue, but it won't really... I don't think they'll build on much from there. And I think it's time for change at Liverpool, but we'll have to see. 4th place from me. Adam, what are your thoughts on Liverpool this season?
I agree with the 4th place finish. I think Klopp last season, he was given leeway for the way Liverpool formed. They still had a decent finish as well, though. There was nothing wrong with the finish. I think the return of Van Dijk's huge, as well as Joe Gomez. Robertson being out is massive. But I think the teams above them will have better quality. And if Liverpool do finish 4th, I think it's time to have a change and get a new manager in. I think the way Klopp built Liverpool was very good, but they now need another building. Unfortunately, with the current players that they've got, which are unreal, I think they could be really taken forward with a different manager and a different style of playing, unless Klopp's willing to adapt to that, which I don't think he is. Then I think they'll get 4th, and I think we could see Klopp leave at the end of this season.
Fair assessment. Brandon, I think it's quite an easy road from here, really, because we've all got the same top 4. Well, I'm not sure about you, Adam, but me and Brandon have the same top 4. Wouldn't surprise me if you had the same. Brandon, why have you got Liverpool in 4th?
I've got them in 4th because they've got players coming back like Van Dijk and Gomez. I completely disagree about Klopp and needing a new manager. I completely disagree.
I don't think they necessarily need a new manager. That's not what I said. I think
Klopp's still going to be
think he's
there for
numbered.
years still to come.
That's what I said.
I would still have him
my
there. But yeah, I think Liverpool's main problem this season is not only Robertson's injury, so they might have to start the season with Milner at left back or the Greek fella. But the Africa Cup of Nations is this year as well, and both Egypt and Senegal are qualified, which eliminates both Sadio Mane and Mo Salah for that kind of section of the season, which is going to hurt them a lot, I think. So some hurdles to get round, which is going to stop them pushing towards the top again for me. So I feel like there's going to be a gap here. But I think they've got some players back this season. They're going to have a bit more of their mojo back from what they had before in the title winning season and the season before. So 4th for me, but not any higher.
Yeah, I respect that. For me personally, on the Klopp thing, it was only a year ago that he said that he's only going to stay at Liverpool for a few more years until he moves on to something else, probably back in Germany. So he is eyeing that move back to Germany. I can't see Jurgen Klopp being Liverpool manager in the next 3 years. Like 3 years from now, I can't see him still being Liverpool manager. I wouldn't surprise me if he's still manager.
I think what will happen is when his tenure does end, I think it'll be someone like Steven Gerrard that will take it.
Oh yeah, obviously. My point with it was that unless Klopp adapts this coming season with the players that are going to be out, I think Liverpool struggle. And if he does adapt, then Liverpool could have a better season than what they did. But that's just my personal opinion. I think the managers don't usually adapt. So that's why I said I don't think he wouldn't. I think he'd leave. But that's just my opinion on it.
I respect that. I think Liverpool definitely got found out last season. And if they don't bounce back from that this season, then I could see Klopp leaving, to be honest, because you can't go losing 7-2 to Villa again. It just simply can't happen, and they can't finish with it. Obviously, they had a good end to the season. I think they won like their last 10 games, something like that, maybe 8 games. So if they can take that momentum into the coming season, then, it's Premier League winning form. But I don't know, I just can't see it. Van Dijk and Gomez have looked really rusty in pre-season, concerningly rusty. And then with Robertson now being out injured as well, it just doesn't bode well. They haven't done any business at all. Other than, obviously, they've got the Konate, I think his name is, centre-back coming in. Could be interesting to see how he does this season. But they've lost Wijnaldum and they haven't replaced him yet. So we'll have to see what happens with Liverpool. Moving on to 3rd place. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Man United did better than this season. But we've got Manchester United in 3rd because, their summer business has been excellent. The signing of Varane and Sancho, 2 wonderful pieces of business and could really change Man United as a whole. Particularly Varane. I think they've needed a defender like this for a long time. I was disappointed they didn't go in for Ramos. But I think Varane's probably a better replacement, definitely for longevity. So it will be interesting to see what Man United can do this season. There's definitely a good vibe around the place. You could say it's now or never for Ole. I think that's the only thing that's ever really holding Man United back, or could be this season, is the fact that I don't see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as a Premier League winning manager. And I don't think he ever will be. But I'm open to, that being changed in him, obviously shocking a few. But they're just the managerial pedigree above him. It's just quite superior. And I think that United squad could easily win the league with a different head coach in charge. But it doesn't mean I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a good coach, because I do think he's a good coach. I just don't think he's a Premier League winning coach personally. Adam, where have you got Man United and what are your thoughts on them?
I've got Man United in the exact same place, 3rd place. I think the signs have been quality. They're great players. Man United look a very exciting team. Probably the strongest this side been since Ferguson left, or even during Ferguson's tenure, a few years before he left. And I think that's really exciting if they can utilise these players and get Varane and Maguire to link up well. Then there's no reason why they can't push for that title this season. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer tactically has to get it spot on, but there's definitely potential there for them to go on the title charge this season or the season after.
Definitely, completely agree. Then Brandon, obviously you've got Man United in 3rd as well. What are your thoughts on United this season?
I just think the gap between them and the teams above them solely comes down to A striker, look, I like Cavani, but he's not. He can't play that many games now. Like he can't play the whole season because he's too old, right? So that role might get passed down to Greenwood or Martial, and I just don't think they're there yet. But it is what it is. But I think, yeah, the defense is a lot more solid now. I don't actually rate Varane as highly as a lot of other people do. But you know, I guess you can't argue with someone that's got that many that much silverware. But I think the biggest problem for me is in the midfield. I don't think McTominay, Fred, Pogba, I don't see these as title winning midfields. So I think they need to find some way to kind of fit one holder in and then maybe get Van der Beek in there. And then you can probably get the best out
They
of
got
Pogba
Bruno as well.
Role. Bruno, I can't forget about Bruno as well in the number 10, but I think it's the two holding roles for me that let him down. And I still think Van der Beek's a bit wasted on the bench. So yeah, I think there's still some work to do before they can become title challengers. Sorry, but I think they're definitely on the way there. Will it be under Ole? I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think they're definitely making the right strides.
Yeah, definitely. I can't believe you'd diss Scott McSauce like that. It's unbelievable.
He's an all right player. I just don't think he's a title-winning midfielder.
I think that's fair.
Completely
Definitely.
agree.
Yeah, completely. I think obviously today as well, it's come out that apparently James Garner has rejected a new Manchester United contract. Would have been interesting to see if he could have broke into that first team. I think he'd definitely bring some energy to them. Whether he's ready for, top half Premier League football yet is another question in itself. But I would have liked to see him given a chance, but there is still time for that. But it's crazy that he's rejected a new deal. Which
I guess he just can't see himself getting in.
Maybe, which could say a lot about his future. It depends, what sort of position he's been promised. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. So I suppose moving on from Manchester United into second place, we have Chelsea. The Champions League winners, just won the Super Cup as well. Very exciting squad, but I think the coach is probably the most exciting part of that entire squad. And he's just come in. He's taken Chelsea from probably a 5th or 6th place finish under Lampard, maybe lower, into a title challenging team. And to rival Man City that quickly is very impressive. And I just like the way he's building the squad. He's got there is a quality squad there on paper. I think a few more signings, but the signing of Lukaku could prove to be a fantastic bit of business. But we all know what Lukaku's strengths and weaknesses are, particularly his first touch. So it's just whether Lukaku will suit that Tuchel system. We'll have to wait and see. But no, I definitely think Chelsea could challenge this year, and it wouldn't surprise me if they won the title. Adam, what are your thoughts on Chelsea this season?
I think the sign of Lukaku is a really excited one. I think he's going to become quality for Chelsea this coming season. I think he obviously was amazing at Everton, struggled hugely at Manchester United, but I think he's going to really kick on now. He's older and he's definitely more composed as a player. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Lukaku in this Chelsea side. I don't think they've got enough in them to get one over on Man City this coming season. The team that Man City have is unreal, but I do think Chelsea can definitely be very closely behind the tactical master. That's Thomas Tuchel.
100%. Brandon, what are your thoughts on Chelsea this season?
Yeah, it's exciting. If you're a Chelsea fan, I think they look so solid under Tuchel, especially defensively, and I think that's just kind of giving them the base to go forward and give the freedom to the talented attacking players they got. And if Lukaku comes into that frame, then it's even better. But for me, well, we'll talk about Man City when we got onto them. But yeah, I still think they're behind City. I still think there's going to be a bit of a gap. But Chelsea are definitely making the right strides under Tuchel.
100%, completely agree. And then I think it's quite obvious who we've got in first, really, isn't it, lads? It's Manchester City, still targeting Harry Kane. And if they do sign him, I think they'll walk the league. But the signing of Grealish is obviously huge as well. Would it surprise me if he ended up being a bench warmer, though? Not at all. Because in those wide areas and those central areas, City have unbelievable wealth in quality. So it's going to be tough for Grealish to begin with. And we'll have to wait and see whether he breaks into the squad or not. But they're definitely doing the right business. And it's exciting to see what City can do. I think what we saw in the Community Shield wasn't promising, though. But, Community Shield is a bit of a friendly these days. But there's no reason why City can't storm the league, particularly if they sign Kane, and I hope they do. I'm excited to see what they can do. But I actually think City's main focus this season will be the Champions League rather than the Premier League. So, whether they sacrifice the Prem to go on and finally win that Champions League wouldn't surprise me at all. Adam, what are your thoughts on City this season?
I don't know how much needs to be said in terms of them winning the Premier League. I think the squad, I don't think anybody's got a squad that matches Man City's squad right now, and it could become one of the best squads at the Premier League scene. And I also think they're the only squad/team that can match PSG at the moment in terms of how much quality they have. I do think obviously PSG are above City, but I think City are the closest team. So I would love to see City get to a Champions League final and see if we compete against PSG. But that's the dream. In terms of the Premier League, I think Man City have it in the bag this season. If they get Harry Kane, then there's no doubt why they shouldn't win the league. They have to win the league if they get Harry Kane.
Definitely, 100%, mate. Completely agree. And finally, Brandon, why do you think Manchester City are going to win the Premier League?
Because they've got the best team, mate. That's as simple as it is, especially with Grealish coming in. Apparently, he's going to play one of the 8 roles. The side of it's probably going to be Rodri, and that just speaks volumes. And he might not even get in then because you've got players like De Bruyne. Obviously, Bernardo Silva's leaving, so that kind of is rumored to be leaving. Sorry, so that might that kind of introduces Grealish into that role. But the amount of talent they've got in there is absurd. If they start the season with Jesus, they might have a slow start. I rate Jesus as a striker, but they need Harry Kane in, and if they get Harry Kane in, then every other team may as well forget the Premier League, and there's the Champions League between pretty much 2-3 teams, if that. So it's annoying, but oil money.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
it's an interesting one with City, but we'll have to see. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining us for yet another table prediction video, and we hope you've enjoyed it. And let us know your thoughts in the comments, and what are predictions, which ones you agree with, which ones you don't. We love a good chat, so definitely get involved, subscribe, like the video. Appreciate it a lot, and we'll see you in the next one. Really.